Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Webtoon Wave podcast. I'm your host, Audrey, and I'm really excited for the guest I have today. You've probably read her comic To Tame a Fire on Webtoon, or maybe you follow her on Instagram. But I'm really excited to introduce Hilluhri. Welcome. Thank you for coming on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you. I'm so excited to get into this with you. I'm really pumped to talk about To Tame a Fire and just really excited to talk to you about your process and everything that entails. Um, so I kind of wanted to start, how did you get into webcomics? And could you tell us a little bit about To Tame a Fire?
So I've always loved reading webcomics, and separate of that, I would only like do fan art um as a hobby.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would see like other artists releasing like their own comics of their OCs, and I thought I'd try it.
Yeah.
um I wanted to try pushing myself creatively in that aspect, and just not drawing other characters and trying to do my own. And
Yeah.
why not?
How was it adapting from drawing just fan art to actually creating a story in like a web comic?
I don't think it was that difficult. Um, I've had like storylines that came easy to me, and I just like combined all the tropes like I've liked in
Hmm.
consuming media and just combined it to make a story.
Nice. Um, yeah, that's really interesting. I feel like for me, because I kind of had a semi similar process,
Hmm.
um, doing fan art and then getting into like a serialization, like creating a web comic.
Yeah.
So how did you come up with the story for To Tame a Fire? Was it just something that kind of spur of the moment, or did you actually like spend time to like develop it?
Yeah, it was completely spur of the moment. Um, I did like two other scrapped comics before that. I just like was like, this is not working. So I just
Yeah,
thought I'd try this. And I didn't really write anything beforehand. I just was like, okay, I'm gonna do this.
you just kind
And
of winged it.
it worked out. Yeah, I did.
Oh wow, wow. I guess that
Yeah.
just goes to show how talented you are.
Thank you.
Can you tell us about those two webcomics that you scrapped?
The first one was like of my very first OC. It was like a very shonen it was like a very shonen like genre kind of
Yeah.
comic. He's like a samurai, and he has like a cute little black cat following him around.
He's a samurai and he had a little black cat following him
Yeah.
around. Oh, that's really cute.
But it didn't work with me, so
Hmm.
I moved on to the second one, which was like a vampire kind of comic. Yeah. But yeah, that didn't work with me either, so I
Mm.
tried um why not a supernatural like special powers kind of
Yeah.
premise.
Yeah.
It
I
seemed
mean,
easier to me. Yeah.
yeah. That is interesting. Was there anything that you kind of learned from your first two projects that helped you with creating To Tame a Fire?
Yeah, I think doing the layout helped. Um, it was hard to get used to a little bit.
Hmm.
Also like pacing and like where to put text is mainly what prepared me.
Yeah, I really noticed that you put a lot of effort into the typography in To Tame a Fire.
Thank you.
It looks really good. That's what I'm saying. It looks really
Yeah.
good. Um, that's interesting. So tell us about the process from having the canvas version of To Tame a Fire and like the original version.
So for the canvas, as I said, I like winged it. And so like I didn't really have a story of like where it was gonna go, and I was kind of just like making things up as I go, which would eventually like cause me to like hit a wall. So when I
Yeah.
got the originals offer, I was like, okay, I'm gonna scrap all of this and just like rewrite the entire
Yeah.
story. Um, so yeah, that helped me figure out like what I wanted to do with the story, and I was also able to improve my art for
Hmm.
the originals. Yeah,
And how long were you how long were you working on To Tame a Fire before you released it?
for originals.
Hmm.
I think it was like 7 to 8 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
What kind of steps did you take to improve not only just the storytelling but the art as well?
Um, I would just keep practicing every day and like trying to draw the characters to make them like look consistent,
Hmm.
because I think I did have a problem with that in my canvas version.
Yeah, consistency with character design is really tough to nail down.
It can be
It's,
really hard, yeah.
yeah, especially with like your characters and their designs, which are so like distinct.
Hmm.
Um, I could imagine that there definitely had to have been some effort to make it consistent, but it paid
Yeah.
off. So how did you kind of find your art style with all of this? Can you tell us about kind of how your art style changed from just doing fan art back in the day until now?
Yeah, so I would like make like mood boards or like folders of art I really liked. Um, I knew I've always liked more sharp, smooth line art,
Hmm.
and also like really colorful, high contrast art as well. And so I would target that basically and see what would come up.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you there. I really love like the more clean line art style.
Hmm.
And like the line art style and the color choices, like the color palette worked really well with To Tame a Fire as well. Do you have all of the special effects and stuff in it? Um, so were there any artists while you were like on this journey that inspired you primarily, or was it just kind of like putting the mood boards together?
Two comics that really inspired me was um, White Blood or Unholy Blood. You could
Oh
really see it
yeah.
in my art.
Okay, yeah, I could actually
And
see that.
also, yeah, and also Purple Hyacinth. I really love
Mm,
the lighting in that
mm-hmm.
comic.
It's very
Yeah, those are
cinematic.
the, yeah, those are my two main inspirations.
Yeah, I could definitely see that in your art style.
Hmm.
And I like that you put your own flair on it as well.
Hmm.
What was the most difficult part of that process, whether it was the storytelling or improving upon the art?
I think improving the art was definitely more um, difficult for me. The story kind of
Mm-hmm.
just like came naturally, but it takes time to improve the art, and also like having to learn like anatomy was quite a hurdle for me.
Yeah, I feel like
Yeah.
that's the biggest hurdle a lot of artists
Hmm.
encounter.
Yeah.
Um, were you were you kind of just like teaching yourself anatomy while you're creating the original version?
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh my gosh.
I was like,
I don't know how you
why
did
not?
that.
Let's just do an action one. Like one of the
That
most hardest.
that blows my mind. I just assumed that you had already nailed down
No.
anatomy and then props to you, Hilluhri. That's insane. That's amazing. That's a oh my gosh. I couldn't imagine like having like did you have a deadline to get the original version prepared or was it kind of just like when Webtoon would give you the green light?
Yeah, so we kind of creators basically just like choose like when we want to release um or comic, and like the upload team is like, okay, we'll give you like a
Hmm.
date. And so I um decided like several months out, like I think that would be best for me. And so in that time, I would try my best to improve.
Hmm. That's actually insane. I I could not imagine like I mean, like as an artist you naturally improve as you keep
Yeah.
creating and keep drawing, but moving from like just in the preparation stages for releasing an original and still like teaching yourself how to improve upon anatomy and improving your art style is that's insane. um so I know you said you winged To Tame a Fire and like the story, but did you
Mhm.
have any inspiration behind like it being like a supernatural action packed type of story?
Yeah, so I just really love shonen anime and manga. So I wanted to kind of base it off that.
Hmm.
And so I just use that as like a baseline for what story arcs to maybe take.
Gotcha. And did you kind of go in order of like where like in stages with the plot as it progresses, or did you kind of like come up with an idea and then find a place to put it like in the storyline?
Um, I would, I think I would just like build off of like what has happened and just add like a new scenario and like see where that
Hmm.
takes me.
Yeah, that's really impressive. I'm really impressed with your capability to just wing it. I feel like one of the hardest parts is the story sometimes and
Mhm.
making everything cohesive and have it make sense. So when moving to originals, I know you had like that 7 to 8 months to prepare. Um, but now you're on hiatus right now with To Tame a
Mhm.
Fire. Um, are there any like are there any time saving things that you've done for yourself to kind of keep up with the deadlines?
Yeah, the biggest one would be like reusing panels and
Mm,
making assets for yourself. And so, if there's like a certain panel or a character that I like, I'll save it in a folder and then I'll reuse it or like trace it when I need to.
yeah, that
Um,
oh,
Sorry, go
continue,
ahead.
sorry.
Okay. Um, I also like keeping assets of like sound effects because I use those like a ton.
Mm,
And so
mhm.
like um, I'll like make the text with the specified font with like the outline and like I'll just like keep it saved as like a PNG, and so I can just like throw it in whenever I need
Yeah, that's really smart. I didn't even think
it.
about like the typography side of it.
Yeah,
Um,
it's helped me a lot.
yeah. Was are there like I mean, just thinking about it, you know, your panels are so dynamic and just there's so many different perspectives and angles. Like I could imagine like you definitely would want to reuse
Yeah,
panels
yeah,
when you can, or at least
right,
just have the basis and then be able to uh, customize it depending on the scene.
right, yeah.
Um, so I know a lot of people's favorite character is Ty. He's got
Yeah.
the dark hair. He's kind of
Mm-hmm.
broody. But I did want to ask you kind of like what was the inspiration behind the protagonist Ray?
Um, Basically, I wanted to make a character that's like normal, rather than giving her a sense of like duty and heroism. I wanted to explore that at least in the beginning for like a normal person to react to the situation she's like being put in. Like in the beginning, Ty offers to train Ray when he discovers how much power she has. He's like, "I'm good," and like
Yeah.
says no. And he's like, "I'm okay with what I have." Um,
And then
but
it
she
all
kind of
turns
has
on her
to,
head.
yeah, she's like thrown into the situation, just has to like accept it.
Yeah.
Like, yeah,
Yeah, I that's what I really love about Ray in particular is that she's like a normal girl and she
yeah,
had this life and this duty thrust upon her and she's like
mm-hmm.
I don't want any part of this. I
I
just
don't
want to
want
live my
it.
life.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I brought up Ty, but I did want to ask what was the inspiration behind him? Maybe his like character design or his personality, anything like that.
So his personality, I just wanted like a cool, dark, brooding, your classic anime character
Mhm.
with like dark hair.
Yeah.
Um, I would say like a couple of the characters I was inspired by is Sung Jin Woo from Soul Leveling
Mm. Mhm.
and Engen from Hero Killer. He also has
Mm.
like cool darkness powers
Yeah.
and like a cool demeanor. So I just wanted to put that in tie.
Yeah, I love characters like that. That have like especially like the male leads if they have like the dark hair and like complex
hmm
past and like
Yeah.
the like the brooding kind.
hmm Yeah.
Um so I wanted to bring up so your comic is very action packed, a lot of special effects. Can you tell me about the art process that goes behind maybe the composition of the panels or how you apply the special effects
Um, for action scenes?
or just like your art process in general?
Okay. Um, I like to have like a reference folder of like cool compositions I like, whether it's like from movies or like manga. And I usually like to do a rough sketch first and then like a cleaner sketch after that. And then I will line the sketch and then I'll put it in my flats and then render after that. And if needed, I'll put in like special effects. I usually have assets of those too. I don't like doing the effects, honestly.
Yeah.
So, yeah, using the stuff I have in my library helps a lot for that.
So you would basically draw inspiration from manga and anime and like action scenes
Yeah.
to basically
hmm
choreograph yours. Okay. That's really cool. I feel like with action scenes they're very hard for me to comprehend.
yeah.
Yeah, it's really admirable that you can do it so well too.
Thank you.
Like just reading To Tame a Fire, I'm just so impressed with the quality and like the thought put into I feel like every panel is I can tell there was effort and thought put behind it.
Thank you.
Since you are a webtoon original, you do this full time, right?
hmm Yep.
Um, what has been your favorite part of being a full time webcomic artist?
Um, I'd say being paid is pretty cool.
Yeah, that's definitely
um,
a nice part.
yeah. To create a story of whatever I want and with my own schedule every single day, and then getting paid to do that is crazy to me. And I'm very grateful that I can do this full time.
That's amazing. I'm really glad you can too have this opportunity, right?
hmm
Um, so what were you doing before you became a full time webcomic artist?
I was in college for graphic design, but I wasn't really enjoying that.
Mm-hmm.
And so while I was going to school, I was also making this webcomic. And after it released and I started getting like an income from it, and it was taking up a ton of my time. After my first year of college, I thought I'd at least like withdraw for now to work on this and then maybe go back to school later if I wanted, and not for graphic design.
What was graphic design just kind of boring, or what was it about it that you didn't like?
Yeah, it just wasn't for me, I don't think. And
Hmm.
so that also, um, doing webcomics reinforced my not wanting to do graphic design
Hmm.
and leave.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, that makes sense. Um, so do you think, like, because once To Tame a Fire is over, what's your like next step after that?
I have been thinking of getting To Tame a Fire printed.
Mm,
That is
like doing
very,
Webtoon Unscrolled?
yeah, the webtoon does have to like reach out to you to
Yeah,
do
they have
that.
to be the ones to, yeah,
Yeah. I think I'd go to like an agent to help me get it
yeah.
published.
I think it's definitely really important to have an agent if you're looking for
Hmm.
a publishing deal.
Yeah, and oh,
Go ahead.
okay. Um, I've also been working on an additional series. Um, so I'm planning on doing that after To Tame a Fire finishes. I think it'll be about like a year and a half from now. To Tame a Fire will probably be done.
Oh my gosh, that's really exciting. Can you tell us about that like other project?
Yeah. So it's like a urban fantasy, like modern world. Um, I'm planning on putting much more romance into it, and I'm
Yay.
yeah, I'm excited about that. And also, I'm still like sticking with the action um
Mm-hmm.
genre as well. I just enjoy doing that.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah, I'm I'm really excited about that. I love romance, obviously. Um, are there like are there things that you learned while you've been doing like while you've been producing To Tame a Fire full time that you are gonna incorporate when you are creating that new one?
yeah, my art I think has definitely improved from To Tame a Fire, and also the storytelling. I've learned a lot of what works and what doesn't, and so I'm planning on incorporating those things.
Yeah, I bet that doing this full time and investing a lot of
Hmm.
time and thought into your into To Tame a Fire would definitely like kind of catapult you on the
Yeah.
improvement train, basically.
Yeah.
Um, so you said you improved in storytelling. What was it like working with an editor at Webtoon? Were they like super involved in the storytelling and like creating the plot, or were they kind of just giving you the reins to do it?
Some editors will be very like you should be doing this, this, and this, but
Hmm.
my editor just like gave me the reins to do what I wanted, and I would go to him for like suggestions, and he's like, maybe add this, or this would be better, maybe if you
Hmm.
added this, but they were all just like suggestions, and I was free to do what I wanted, pretty much.
Yeah, that's amazing that you had a lot of creative control
Hmm.
over that aspect of it. And not everyone's experience is like that, obviously, but
Right.
I mean, from what I've been reading with To Tame a Fire, I'm just like, you're so young. How how are you already so good at this?
uh, thank you.
um, so while doing this full time, you have deadlines, you have a certain requirements to be publishing as an original creator. Are there times and you have a team as
Hmm.
well. Are there times that you experienced burnout and like if you did, what were some of the things that you did to try and overcome it?
Yeah, so I experienced burnout recently, which is why I took
Mm-hmm.
the hiatus.
Yeah.
Um, my biggest thing for dealing with burnout is to like stop whatever is causing the burnout,
Mm-hmm.
which seems obvious, but it can be hard if um, you're just like, no, I should continue this. I don't want to like put a pause in the series, but I think if you keep like pushing yourself to do that, the burnout will just get worse and it'll take
Mm-hmm.
longer to recover from that. So I just thought I'd just stop and take a break.
Yeah. I think it's really difficult, especially when like everyone's situation is different and how they deal with burnout.
Hmm.
Um, and I could imagine it being in your situation that the burnout would happen like more often and more quickly than an independent creator would.
Yeah.
Um, so I know you mentioned that you would, you take a hiatus and you're stopping with To Tame a Fire for now. Um,
Hmm.
but are there any other tips that you would give to anyone who may be experiencing this?
Um, in terms of like overcoming it,
Mm-hmm.
I like to consume media that inspires me, like watching a fun anime with dynamic action scenes or like reading
Mm-hmm.
other webtoons that I enjoy would put me in the mood to like want to create again
Mm-hmm.
and get back in the swing of things. Um, just resting and doing what you enjoy. Eventually, the burnout will stop if you really do love what you do. It's not
Yeah.
permanent. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's really good advice to give to somebody to draw inspiration from other sources.
Hmm.
I mean, that's kind of what I do when I experience it. And I'm not the best at dealing with it all the time,
Yeah.
but
Me too.
I'll kind of do like a separate creative project. Like if I'm
Hmm.
getting like if I finish an episode and I'm kind of burnt out from it, I'll do like Patreon content and just do
Yeah.
tackle something that's more creative than just producing panels like I'd been
Hmm.
doing.
Right.
Besides getting paid to be a webcomic creator, what would be the most rewarding aspect to it?
Um, I have like a scene or arc or event like written out like a long time. Then I finally get around to like drawing it and bringing it to life. I find that very rewarding for me because there are scenes like I've written out like a year and a half like in
Mm,
advance, and it's just like sitting there in my like Word doc
yeah,
and to like finally get around to it and um, see it like actually play out is very cool and rewarding.
that's amazing. Yeah, absolutely. What scenes or what arcs in particular were you so excited to get to?
I think the towards the ending of season one when they're like trying to rescue the people stuck in the labyrinth and Ray gets like caught behind and she gets captured by Tidal Raid and to finally draw the scene where Ray meets Kane like in person. They
Yeah,
like meet face to face. That was very cool to finally see because it's like been building up for so long.
yeah, that that's amazing. I could imagine the joy of finally getting to that part in the
Right?
story.
Yeah.
Um, when you were working on it, did you just start from? Because I feel like sometimes I want to just draw a panel that I'm really excited about and then get to the rest. Did you do something similar, or were you just kind of did you just kind of go with like the
I
events?
I never thought about doing that
Yeah,
actually.
yeah,
Yeah, I would just like wait until I got around to it.
yeah, yeah. It's funny. I there are so many times in my own webcomic that I just want to get to already, but I can't.
Right.
So it's not like writing where if you want to reach a particular scene, you can just type it down or type it out.
Yeah.
It's a whole other ball game with webcomics.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's incredible. I'm really glad you've been able to experience that part of being a creator, is finally getting to those really fun and exciting points in the story.
Yeah.
So I'll ask you one final question, and then we can go on to our fan submitted questions.
Okay.
But what advice would you give to a creator who, or somebody who wants to start a webcomic, or even somebody who's currently creating one?
I would say for aspiring ones that you should just start. Like you can plan ahead and write the script and story that you want, design the characters, and but the best way to learn and grow and improve is to actually like do it. And it might be like very daunting, but you don't have to stick with it. You can just like make it, and if you're not happy with it, you can just scrap it and start new. But the most like valuable thing is to just do it, and then you can learn from it and improve and see where you want to go from there.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice. The other creators I've talked to have said the same thing too.
Yeah.
Which it goes to show, like, just, the best way to go about doing it. What about a creator that is currently working on a webcomic?
Sorry, I need to
You're
think
good.
about
Take your
that.
time. It's fine.
I think it helps to write out your story. Um, like just like the main events if you don't really want to do everything, but it helps to do that just to know where you want to take the story, and so it ensures that you like don't like hit a wall with your plot.
Mm-hmm.
And you can also like add like foreshadowing throughout it, and that helps like your readers like get more into the story as well.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Right. How would you, like, what could you tell a creator that may be struggling with the storytelling aspect, or even just like planning the story? Like, how would they know that they have a good story to begin with?
I think if you're truly enjoying what you're making, I think that's good enough to tell it. Um, as long as you like stick to your vision, I think that's good enough to tell. And I think people will want to hear you tell that story as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I think especially just creating it with the goal of just doing it for you and
Yeah,
nobody else. I
right.
I feel like I talk to creators that they create it and they don't know where they want the story to go, because they're like, oh, what if people don't like it? What if people are gonna hate on this character? What if they just don't like certain aspects of it? And I tell them that you really shouldn't worry about what other people think and what their opinions are, because at the end of the day, you should be doing this for you because you enjoy it and you have a
Right.
passion for it. Yeah. Okay, let us move on to our fan submitted questions. Manel KBDI asked, who would be the most jealous in a relationship, Ray or Ty?
Okay. I think Ty for
I can see
sure.
that. I
he's
can see
he's
that.
like a he's a bit more like hot-headed, which
Yeah.
is ironic, but yeah, if he like saw someone making moves on Ray or anything, um I mean he would be respectful towards Ray and he doesn't like control her or anything, but like he would fail very miserably at trying to hide that he's like upset about it.
Yeah. Not very good at hiding his emotions.
Nope.
Oh, that's funny. Um, Danielle I mean, we kind of talked about this, but
Mhm.
Danielle Croy asked, "How did you design your characters based off of their powers, personality, or something else?"
I mainly design them off personality. Um, Usually when I think of a new character, I like already have an idea of what they look like. I also do come up with powers based off of personality or like vibes in
Hmm.
general.
Okay. Um, yeah, I feel like a character's design should come after you decide who they are as a character. Um, I mean, at least in my case, I kind of had an idea of what I wanted the characters to look like, but they really changed over time as I spend more time developing them as
Hmm.
characters. So, um, Bustera asked, "How do you determine the pacing and balance of romance with action?"
I have always just like written out the main storyline, um, with the action and everything, and then I like sprinkle in romance scenes along the story. Um, the romance doesn't really affect the story,
Hmm.
and
It's
so
like a
whenever
subplot
there's
to
like
it.
an yeah, um, when there's like an opportunity or there's like a break between arcs, I
Hmm.
usually put the romance there.
Yeah, yeah. I noticed many fans submitted questions about when will they get together? When are they going to kiss?
Yeah.
It was a really common
Don't
question.
worry, guys. I have plans.
Okay, good, because we definitely need to reassure the fans that it'll happen.
I try my
uh,
best to let them know.
yeah, yeah, that's good. Um, this question was so unhinged, but I had to include it because it makes me laugh. Megan asked, "Which shadow daddies were you inspired by when creating Ty?"
I think we talked about it earlier. I just wanted like a super cool, like good dark broody male lead. I just love
Yeah,
that kind of character, so I just wanted to make one of my own.
yeah,
Basically any dark brooding character you see in anime, I
yeah,
probably took inspiration off of that.
yeah. There's so many good ones too.
Yeah,
Oh my gosh. That question just it made me giggle when I saw
it's
it.
a
I was
good
like,
one.
okay, I gotta ask her this one. Okay, Anastasia, I think yeah, Anastasia asked another question. Um, she asked, if you can have a crossover, what series would you want To Tame a Fire to have a crossover with?
Um, I'm not entirely sure, but maybe like another superpower type comic like Ellicede,
Hmm.
maybe. Um, I think it would be funny to see two dark brooding male characters
In the
interact
same
with each
room.
other.
It's
Yep.
like which one can be the
That'd be
most
fun to see.
broody?
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Okay. I haven't actually read Elsie. I need to read it though because
It is very
people
good.
rave about it. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'll definitely have to read it. Um, we did kind of cover this a little bit, but Danielle asked, "How do you write your comic? Before drawing, do you have a plot already written?"
Yeah, when I initially started out, like I drew right away, as we talked about, but now I do have the plot and script written before drawing. It just
Hmm.
makes things like easier for me, I think, and it
Yeah,
saves
for
more
sure.
time as well. Yeah.
Hmm. Are you so with the story? Um, how do you just write out scenes in general and then kind of piece them together, or how do you go about writing it? Or is it just like script based?
So I write out scenes and then script, but how I write out the scenes is like I just build off of what has just happened
Hmm.
usually, or I will like create like main arcs and like put like transitioning arcs between them.
Mm-hmm.
or like other events that could lead up to that main big event.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. That makes sense. I feel like it's really important to have the story mapped out before you even
Mm-hmm.
start drawing.
Yeah.
Okay, and then our last question. Cake asked, which character is the hardest for you to draw?
Ty for sure.
I could see why.
Um, drawing hot men can be so difficult, and we don't talk about it enough.
You know what? That's
Um,
very true.
yeah. Um, it's mainly the messy, wavy hair that he
Mhm.
has, that's gotten me. And in the beginning, when I first started drawing him in the canvas version, he'd like have like a balloon head or like look like Megamind.
No way.
Because I'll show you pictures.
I would love to
It's
see those
funny.
pictures. I would love to see them.
um, like I just couldn't picture like how his hair would be shaped around his head for some reason.
Yeah.
And yeah, but I would hope I'm better at it now. I think I have improved on that.
I mean, I don't know what the before looked like, but he looks really good now.
Thank you.
Just yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely I feel like one of the hardest things for me is just drawing hair. I mean, at least right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've
Yeah.
gotten a lot better about it, but it still like
It's
confuses my
just putting it
brain.
on the head. Yeah.
Because like it's coming from like different directions and
Right?
there's
Yeah.
volume and
Mm-hmm.
all the components. Yeah.
So
Um
many, so many things.
yeah. And especially when you have as diverse character designs that you do.
Mm-hmm.
Um I mean, is there a character that's the easiest for you to draw?
I think Ray, just because I've drawn her like so much,
Yeah.
um, and it's not too hard to draw her hair.
Hmm.
It's just like curtain bangs and like straight hair,
Yeah.
which is pretty easy.
Yeah.
But I guess sometimes keeping the consistency of her face would get hard for me, but I think I've gotten that down too as
Yeah.
well.
Something that I recommend creators do, and it's not just me, like a lot of people recommend this. But if you can make sheets for their head
Yes.
at a lot of
Mm-hmm.
angles, just so you can like
Yeah.
copy paste and keep it.
Right.
Like in the beginning, I lined up the heads at different angles and I had guidelines so I knew the proportions and like where
Mm-hmm.
the facial features would be at, if
Right.
they were turning, right? Yeah. It definitely saved me a lot of time
Yeah.
when
That's
drawing
definitely good
faces.
advice. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Um how do you draw really attractive characters? Like what is it? Everybody, like so many people in the questions were like, how does she make them all hot? Like
um, I, I don't know how to answer that, honestly. I,
I
I
think
guess I just look off of like attractive characters I've seen
yeah.
and like base it off that.
Yeah. I mean with like in my experience men in particular have like those more angular features that I really
Yes,
like
for
drawing,
sure.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Um and then,
Angular eyes.
yeah, angular eyes, jawline,
Yep.
jawline.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And of course it can change depending on their
Yes.
personality, right? Like how you draw them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. I that is all the questions I have for you today. Thank you for coming on the podcast, Hilluhri. It was such a pleasure to talk to you and learn more about you and discuss your webcomic. So thank you for coming on today.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. This was very fun.
Yeah, it was super fun. um, okay, everybody, I will include Hilluhri's links in our show notes. I will include her Instagram her link to her webcomic To Tame a Fire. Thank you so much for joining me today, Hilluhri.
Thank you.
If you found this podcast useful or even entertaining, you can leave us a review. Feel free to follow us on our socials at the Webtoon Wave. So stay creative, stay inspired, and we'll see you next time.